What's up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. Great to have you guys along on today's show. We're going to talk all things SEC with our buddy Ben Troupe, former Florida Gator tight end. We'll get his thoughts on the Gators as well as several of the other SEC teams around the conference in week one. Also, the Ole Miss Rebels, impressive in their first game last night. Defense stepping up in a big way. Can they play like that the rest of the year? We will discuss. I am Chris Gordy. Be sure to follow Locked On SEC for free wherever you get your podcast. You'll get the latest episode of the show as soon as it comes out each and every day. All right, let's jump right into it.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Want to remind you guys that the NFL season's about to begin. Nobody covers it like the Locked On Podcast Network. Subscribe to the Ultimate Season Preview on the Odyssey app. They will get you ready for the start of the NFL season. All right, let's jump into it. Let's go around the conference.
Boots out to the right. Intercepted. Makes the handoff. What a catch.
Around the conference.
And we start with Ole Miss's dominant win last night over Louisville. Biggest takeaways for me, the Ole Miss offense looked solid as expected. A nice night by Matt Corral. Several rushing touchdowns for that Rebel ground game with Snoop Connor, Jerrion Ealy, Henry Parrish getting some touches. But to me, the biggest story, I know Louisville is having issues, but the Ole Miss defense appears to be much more improved. Maryland transfer linebacker Chance Campbell, number 44, he made his presence known. Some crushing hits. DeAndre Prince with an interception. A couple more DBs getting their hands on some balls. Could have been picked off more. The Rebels, it shut out Louisville at the half. They led 26-0. The last time an Ole Miss defense pitched a scoreless first half against a Power 5 team, you got to go back to 2016 when they played Georgia. That was a game the Rebels won with that Land Shark defense. But Louisville's 26 passing yards at halftime, those are the fewest for an Ole Miss opponent since Wofford in 2016. The other part of this story, so many targeting calls. My goodness, 4 players ejected in the first half for targeting. Louisville had a couple. Ole Miss with linebacker Lakia Henry and linebacker Mark Robinson. Lane Kiffin being interviewed by ESPN the second half, quarantining. Of course, he was not at the game. He said maybe the Big Ten officiating crew could teach them how to tackle so they could stop having players ejected. So a good start to the season for Ole Miss. They'll have a short week as they get ready to host Austin Peay on Saturday, and we'll see if Lane Kiffin is back on the sidelines with the Rebels. We expect the offense to maybe be a little bit more fluid, even more high-scoring with Lane Kiffin back out there. A few other notes before we get to our buddy Ben Troupe. Georgia was without its top trainer, Ron Corson, on Saturday against Clemson as he deals with a breakthrough case of COVID. That is something that's going around the Georgia program, and Kirby Smart on Monday during his press conference said he's concerned as ever about COVID. He said we have 3 or 4 guys out with COVID currently, a couple members of our staff as well. For us, we are at our highest spike, and people are talking about vaccinations. Well, these are all people who are vaccinated, and we're talking about breakthrough cases. So we'll see how this situation progresses as the week moves on, and if anybody's going to have to miss the game taking on UAB this weekend for the Bulldogs. Over in Gainesville, the Florida secondary, they will be without a second-year defensive back this year. Dan Mullen confirmed Monday that redshirt freshman safety Kamar Wilcoxon is out for the season after having surgery. His knee injury happened in practice before the season opener. Of course, Florida DB Jaden Hill is also out for the year after tearing his ACL in fall camp, so losing some depth there in the secondary. But the big story for the Gators this past weekend, quarterback Anthony Richardson electrifying the crowd at the Swamp, coming off the bench to throw for 40 yards and add 7 carries for 160 yards rushing. Performance created a lot of buzz. And on Monday, Dan Mullen was asked about Richardson, the fans wanting to see more of him. Dan Mullen made an interesting comparison. He compared it to Tim Tebow. He said, I was here in 2006. There was huge enthusiasm for Tim Tebow, and he played, 6-7 plays a game? So Dan Mullen kind of trying to settle down the natives, saying, look, Emory Jones is our starter. We're going to put Anthony Richardson at times, including, he said, on Hail Mary plays as a receiver, but that's basically the gist of it. We'll see. Anthony Richardson, a lot of people calling to see more of him because he is so electrifying. Nothing against Emory Jones. Over at Auburn, during their win against Akron on Saturday, a couple of Noticeable faces missing. Cornerback Jalen Simpson. He left the Akron game due to injury. Nickelback Ladarius Tennyson and receiver Tarvarish Dawson. Tennyson and Dawson did not play because of disciplinary reasons, Harsin said. He said hopefully they will be back this week. He said as for Simpson, he is hopeful he will return for the game against Alabama State, but as of now, that status is still up in the air. Over at Texas A&M, they cruised to a win over Kent State over the weekend, but a couple of down a handful of key defenders. Defensive linemen McKinley Jackson and Michael Clemens both did not play after having off-season arrests. Meanwhile, cornerback Miles Jones was out with an injury on Monday. Jimbo Fisher said Jackson will remain out. Clemens will be back in action. So there you go for the Aggies. Over in Tennessee, a few injury scares for them last Thursday. Starting center Cooper Mays left the game with an apparent ankle injury. On Monday, Josh Heupel said Cooper's been in the building today, moving around. As the week moves along, we'll get a better feel on if he'll be 100% for kickoff against Pittsburgh this Saturday. But if Mays can't go, Jerome Carvin, who finished the game at center for Tennessee last week, he'll likely get the start with Ollie Lane replacing Carvin at left guard. Also on Monday, Heupel discussed the status of wide receiver Jimmy Callaway. He missed the game against Bowling Green due to injury. He said, we do expect Jimmy to be back this week. And Heupel also said they're preparing as if edge rusher Byron Young is going to play this week. They're awaiting word from the NCAA after he transferred in this offseason from JUCO. And lastly, Arkansas fans, they've got this weekend's game circled. And Razorback Stadium going to be sold out this weekend with Texas coming to town. Only a few standing room tickets available for this game. It is the first time since 2017 that a game at Donald W. Reynolds Stadium will be sold out. A limited number of standing room tickets only available for this one. And there you have it. That is Around the Conference. When we return, our conversation with former Florida Gator Ben Troupe. We're going to talk all things SEC with him. That's next. Quick minute here for our friends over at SweatBlock. SweatBlock is something that's not fun to talk about. It is you dealing with excessive sweating, whether that's, on a date or whether you're going out to a football game, you're tailgating all day. Look, I'm that guy who normally has to bring an extra shirt to change into because the sweating is a problem. Not anymore with our friends at SweatBlock. It is doctor created, doctor recommended, works for up to 7 days per use. They give you the dry shirt guarantee. If SweatBlock doesn't keep you dry, you get your money back. It's been featured and tested on the Rachel Ray Show by firefighters. It's a bestseller on Amazon for the past 10 years, over 13,000 reviews. The SweatBlock wipes are the real deal. They're stronger and more effective than most clinical antiperspirants. It's very easy. You just simply put it on at night before bedtime. You go to bed. The next morning you wake up, you wash, you go about your day without worrying about sweat. Guaranteed. I know it sounds too good to be true, but it is the real deal. If you or someone you love is dealing with this, you have to go check out SweatBlock. You can get it today for 20% off at sweatblock.com when you use our promo code LOCKEDON. It's LOCKEDON. Or you can find them at Amazon or CVS, wherever you like. But go to sweatblock.com, use our promo code LOCKEDON. You'll get 20% off SweatBlock. This episode also brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it is now impossible for your local auto parts chain store to stock all the parts that you need. When you go in there, they're literally going to go to the computer. They're going to type in your make, your model, and try to find the parts that you need. Why go across town to a store when half the time they're going to have to order that part for you? They don't even have it in stock. Save time, save money when you use Rock Auto. You can choose, you can save sometimes 30, 50, even 100% more on the same parts from a chain store or a car dealership. Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Their prices are reliably low for every customer. They got everything you can need from brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, even new carpet. Go check out their easy-to-use website. Find the solution to your auto parts needs today. Go to rockauto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car or truck. Make sure you write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so that they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Visit rockauto.com. Rolling along here, Locked On SEC, and still kind of recapping, looking back at the weekend that was. Tons of games happening over the weekend. Ole Miss last night against Louisville. But, man, this goes all the way back to last Thursday. We got to see Tennessee, how they looked. We got to see Florida, Georgia, Alabama, LSU, all the teams throughout the SEC. So I said, you know what? Nobody better to get in here to talk all things SEC with us than our buddy Ben Troupe, former Florida Gator who has been covering the SEC. He works for ESPN Coastal. He's got a new book coming out. He's got all kinds of stuff going on. Ben, what's going on, man?
Man, Chris, man, it's always good to be on with you. You are my way to vent. You know, sometimes when you're in this business, you know, sometimes I just want to get it out. But outside of arguing with my mother all the time, it's already a quarterback controversy, and she has her pick after one game. I think it's good, man, to be able to show, man, that I think the SEC has quality football across the board, and I think it was on full display, since, like you said, since last Thursday.
Well, because you are a Florida Gator, I want to start there because, you know, I had the multi-TVs going on. I was watching all the different games, and, you know, we said in Florida, FAU, they shouldn't struggle with them. They didn't. But let me start here. Just outside, before we even get into Emory Jones versus Richardson, whatever, why didn't Florida throw for more yardage in this game?
Ooh, I think what happens is, you know, when you start getting into like when you're watching all these highlights or what these teams do now, they kind of show the best part of practice. That doesn't necessarily, you're replacing everybody. I mean, you're replacing Tony, you're replacing Pitts, you're replacing Grimes, you're replacing Trask. And the one thing people didn't realize is those guys were in rhythm. Like Kyle Pitts didn't have to be the best player every week. Sometimes it's Kadarius. And if you want to do those 50-50 balls, you go outside with Grimes. But I think that the rhythm that Kyle Trask had for this offense last year, I think that's what people don't realize. He was in rhythm the whole year. I do believe that, you know, Chris, I try not to get into them. I try not to be a box score watcher. You know, you go to the box score, it tells part of the game, not all of the game. But I think it comes back to, you know, a guy like Emory Jones. He's got a big arm, but does he have touch? Like, we know he can get it 30, 40 yards down the field. Can he hit the layups? Can he do the checkdowns? Can he go through his reads? And I didn't expect nobody to look, you know, all world except Bryce Young, which I know we'll get to him. But I think that, you know, Emory, the things that Dan Mullen talks about with Emory Jones is he's so athletic that sometimes he does too much instead of just playing the game. So I don't know if that's what happened on Saturday night, but I'll give it more to first game jitters, but he going to have to get it right in a hurry because them boys from Tuscaloosa, they coming in 2 weeks.
They are, and, you know, that's kind of what these first couple games are kind of tune-ups for you to get ready for that. Emory Jones and Anthony Richardson. I found it very interesting, Ben, all throughout fall camp, Dan Mullen kept talking up Anthony Richardson. And I know he was a highly touted recruit, and, you know, we've seen them at times. I mean, even when Kyle Trask was there, they would find plays for Emory Jones. But I just thought it was so interesting he kept talking him up. And then, you know, some fans and things like that were saying this could be an actual quarterback battle. And ultimately, Emory Jones won. But, man, it was so interesting to see the athleticism. I mean, and both guys are athletic and have wheels and can move and all that. But Richardson just felt like when he took off a running on that, I think it was, 73-yard touchdown run, it just felt like his speed was on another level. What do you make of the two quarterbacks? I mean, are they going to continue to play both? I assume yes. But, like, is there a push saying, hey, maybe Richardson should just be the full-time guy?
Well, after Saturday night, yes. I mean, that's gonna be a narrative. But the one thing that Richardson didn't do either, he didn't throw the football a lot. Like now, what he does with his feet, hey man, you can't coach speed, you can't coach athleticism, and he has both. But you can't be a one-trick pony. I think Tim Tebow has kind of made it so that, look, the Chris League Tim Tebow thing worked, but one guy was an efficient passer, the other guy comes in and he's a battering ram. Well, I mean, Richardson, 6'4", 240? I mean, Gainesville native. But I think that in order for him to create more buzz, he's going to have to do more in the offense. And it keeps a lot of pressure on Emory. I would hope that would force Emory Jones to play better. But look, if you was watching this weekend and you see a big 6'4", 240-pound quarterback running away from the defense down the sideline, that's what Dan Mullen does. He calls up plays, and he's done the two-quarterback system before. I always say this. If it works with teams that don't meet the talent threshold, I get it. If it doesn't work against Alabama, it doesn't work. Because if you can't do it against teams that is good enough or better than you talent-wise, that means that, you pad the stats. So when it comes to Alabama, if Anthony Richardson runs out, that means he's earned that for the rest of the year. But it depends on what he does when he runs out. But I do think I don't think after one game you got a quarterback controversy. But I think that all the buzz you heard about Anthony Richardson, not just in the bowl game last year, but in the fall camp, I mean, you saw it. And Emory's worst nightmare is the guys in your meeting room. If Anthony Richardson can develop a touch throwing the football, I know Emory's been there for 4 years and he's never entered the transfer portal. But Chris, I'm telling you, your worst enemy should come from your own team. And if you Emory Jones, I'm just saying, man, Mr. AR-15 is a problem.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how that plays out as the year goes along. A tip of the cap to the defense. They did get 6 sacks. I know it was FAU, but, man, Zachary Carter, great decision to come back to school, and 3 sacks on Saturday night. That's what you're looking for. I know everybody was kind of, I was one of them saying maybe they should have moved on from Todd Grantham. Let's see if Grantham's got this defense ready to go this year. They look good in week 1. Let's see more of that as the season rolls along.
We'll see. I mean, I was very, very impressed. Got a chance to interview Zach Carter and Ventrell Miller SC Media Days. What's dangerous now, Chris, is, everybody has that Marvin Wilson effect. Like, I was good enough to go pro, but I came back and it didn't work out for me. Zachary Carter knows, big target on his back. Guy that's, definitely has an NFL, caliber type talent. But at the end of the year, they're going to be looking at how many sacks, not who you got the sacks against. They're going to be like, did you get any sacks? And look, 3 sacks is 3 sacks. I mean, I played during the time of Alex Brown, and then I got there in 2000. Alex Brown had, 5 sacks against Tennessee in one game. So that's what you up against. But you want to look dominant. You are building confidence. Javon Dexter, I think that kid going to be phenomenal. But the defense, they played together. And the only touchdowns they really gave up is because of penalties. Like, if they don't give up them penalties, they probably go scoreless. But I will say that, look, Ty Grantham is under a lot of pressure. Ty Grantham is paid a lot of money. And the excuse of, I know that Dan Mullen has the independent contractors, and I know that Ty Grantham has defense that you can't call out the plays, that won't be an excuse this year. You at the University of Florida, line up, get the call, go out there and play, because like I said, I hate to keep going back to them. Them boys from Alabama, they coming, man, and you gonna learn a lot about yourself. Not the whole game, in the first quarter. Like, hey, man, are we ready for this or not? But Zachary Carter, man, Mr. Unfinished Business for one game, and man, he definitely showed every tool he had in the toolbox.
We're gonna go around the rest of the SEC coming up next with Ben Troupe. It is that time of year again, folks. Football season is underway. College football just got underway this past weekend. We've got the NFL starting up this week. And as always, BetOnline is your #1 spot for all pro and college football action this year. You can get updated odds, props, and contests, tons of different things they've got going on. And when you head over to their website, you can do so on your mobile device, sign up today, and receive a 100% welcome bonus when you use the promo code LOCKEDON. That's LOCKEDON. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports, from football to basketball, baseball, boxing, right down to your favorite Vegas casino games. They got it all for you right there. Don't wait. Take advantage of all the great offers available for the 2021 season. Look, I'm not pressuring you to sign up. Just go to their website and check it out. I love just looking at the betting odds and seeing what some of the odds are coming up on some of the games. I guarantee you're going to see that. You're going to go, why am I not doing this? Why have I not done this sooner? Go to BetOnline.ag right now. They are your online sportsbook experts. Make sure you use our promo code LOCKEDON if it's the first time you signed up, and get that 100% welcome bonus. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. Right along here, Locked On SEC, and really enjoying our conversation with our buddy Ben Troupe, former Florida Gator, former NFL tight end, and now media personality, radio host, doing it all, author. By the way, let's touch on the book. The book's coming out real soon, right?
Yeah, book should be out the 21st of this month, Uncommon and Unfinished, the Ben Troupe story. Shout out to BJ Bennett, one of the best friends in the world, co-host also of 3 and Out. We almost killed each other. Chris doing this book. It's a long process. It's not the writing though. It's not the writing of the book. It's the editing of the book. So to all my English teachers, all my professors, I apologize. All that red ink that y'all used to give me back my papers, y'all know what y'all talking about. So a subject and a predicate is different. A semicolon and a comma is different. So exclamatory statement and an imperative statement is so I'm just saying, and dessert and desert are spelled different. So it's a lot of things, Chris, that I went through. But I will say this. My story is not unique because it's mine. My story is unique because I'm willing to tell it. And I would tell anybody that ever wanted to write a book to just do it. I really, really would say do it because it's getting your thoughts out there. It's a chance for you to control your own narrative. It's going to be a great book. I think while people know me as Ben, obviously you get to learn about Benjamin, but to the people, places, and things, and coaches and friends and teammates, you're going to learn a lot about. It's going to be people reading this book not knowing they're in it. They're going to be like, wait a minute, because I've benefited from the greatest players, the greatest coaches, and the greatest teams there are. So I'm just a byproduct of greatness around me. But yeah, man, my mom and dad are intertwined. My family's intertwined in it. But country boy from Swainsboro, Georgia, man, trying to throw my hat in this off the game. We'll see what happens. But I am very, very pleased with the end product.
BenTroupe84.com is where you can find the book, and definitely go up there and pre-order it now. Get it right when it comes out. I already did mine, so I'm looking forward to getting into reading. All right, Ben, let's jump back into some of the action from the weekend. Georgia Clemson. Look, this was the battle of 2 top 5 teams. It lived up to the hype. I think we just weren't expecting this kind of defensive battle. I talked to somebody a few weeks ago. They said, man, this Georgia defense is going to be way better than last year's, and maybe the best that Kirby has had since he's been in Athens. And I thought that was a little bit of hyperbole, because we always do this in the offseason. It's always, this is the best ever and all this. But my goodness, did they put on a display on Saturday night against Clemson, and a guy who was, at the top of people's Heisman list, DJ Uiagalelei, the new Clemson quarterback. Georgia absolutely shut them down. And even I was taken aback by it.
Coming into this game, it was all about the quarterbacks. And I think DJU and JT Daniels are both from the same area. I think played against each other in high school out there in California. But the name coming out of this game was Dan Lanning, defensive coordinator for Georgia. He's probably the biggest name as far as it's going to be the next candidate for a head coaching job. Now, the best defensive coordinator in the country was on the other side. Brent Venables, he might be the best D coordinator. Definitely gets paid like the top D coordinator in the country. But, Chris, sometimes Georgia and Clemson got to remind us why we really watch them. We are creatures of the moment. When it comes to these quarterbacks, when it comes to these Heisman Trophy, candidates, DJU, saw him last year against Notre Dame for one game. He looked the part. JT Daniels played in 4 games last year. His debut against Mississippi State last year was about as good as advertised. But when the rubber meets the road, these defenses said, man, I'm tired of all this. We going to see who got the best. Now, Georgia's front 7 might not be better than Clemson's, but for one night they were. For one night, they live in the backfield. And I think what happens is, I wouldn't call it Clemsoning or anything like that. I wouldn't do that at all. But Dabo Swinney showed that he has a weakness. And that is, if my big-time quarterback can't save me, I might not win. Clemson didn't score. Well, Georgia didn't score either. Excuse me, but a Clemson-led offense didn't get on the board. You scored 3 points in a neutral field. Bank of America said it was beautiful to watch because Georgia's defense probably got so sick of hearing about the offense, who we add on the JT Daniels and Burton and, all these running backs. But yeah, Chris, man, it was a beautiful game. And the team that lost is a team that blinked. And that just happened to be Clemson. And just like I know, it's not that you lose, it's how you look when you lose. Clemson did not look good. Georgia, neither offense looked good, but if you would have told me that Georgia beat Clemson 10-3, I was like 10-3. I just thought it was going to be up and down with the offense and whoever defense can make a play. But hey man, Dan Lanning and that Georgia defense, they are scary. But what's even scarier, if Georgia's offense gonna be looking like that the whole season, it's gonna be a long year. Because if you expect that type of heroic effort every game, I don't think it's gonna be that. But for one night, everything in line for Georgia. Dare I say, Kirby Smart, he's under a different level of pressure and scrutiny than than I can't even think Dabo. But I just think that it was a beautiful game, man. But if you were a Georgia fan, a Clemson fan, you was on the edge of your seat because that thing was back and forth. And I think the DJU was going to be fine. I would be worried about JT Daniels. I really, really be worried about him because he gave you 4 games and everybody thought he was the next coming. But when was the last time Georgia had a Heisman Trophy candidate at quarterback? It's been a long time. I think it's a lot of pressure on that young man. But hey, man, if you at the University of Georgia, you start a quarterback, you might be the most famous person in the state, not named Matty Ice, not named Matt Ryan. So it comes with the program, and I hope he can live up to the pressure because he thought that 4-game sample size, he understood what Georgia football was. No, full off season, packed stadiums, expectation, that's Georgia football.
Yeah, no doubt. And the road does get easier for the Georgia's next handful of games. They're UAB, South Carolina, at Vandy, and Arkansas. Man, they've got a nice path here to run off a lot of wins and regroup and get this offense back on track. What about the number 1 ranked team? And look, Ben, I'll be honest, all offseason I questioned it. I said, man, you're losing a lot at Alabama. You're losing a lot of coaches. You're bringing in Bill O'Brien, bringing in a lot of new assistants. Bryce Young, can he live up to the hype? He didn't really get into any real game action last year. Man, did they look the part and literally just picked up right where they left off? New names, new faces, don't matter. Same result. Alabama looks clearly to be the best team in the country once again.
They're the breeding ground, right? That's the factory. The factory is in Tuscaloosa, and Bryce Young proved that. When everybody else, because we talk about pressure. So wait a minute, I got to come behind Mac, Tua, and Jalen. Okay, so what am I gonna do? And Bryce Young looked very, very comfortable. I mean, the guys throwing the bombs coming out the end zone, they ain't running the ball. I don't know how Alabama does it, but Alabama, they are already in mid-season form, first game. That was not a game. The most exciting part about the game was the alumni on the sideline. There go Warren Sapp, there go Michael Irvin, there go Adrian James, there go, out. Once they kicked the ball off, it was over. And De'Aaron King, look, I don't know what De'Aaron King was talking about after the game. Talking about, yeah, man, no. They only scored 44. They could have put up 70 if they wanted to, but it's something to know that, look, once Alabama goes up by like 10, 15 points, it's going to be hard to catch them because bigger than the scheme, they do the fundamentals better than anybody. Those DBs, they covered in the fourth quarter like it's the first. They don't. And that's what I think what makes Alabama scary. They go, hey man, I got to please old St. Nick. He is who's looking at me all the time, so I can't let up. But it's scary, man. And I know that Georgia and Alabama are supposed to be on a crash course to Atlanta. Look, Alabama's the only team that don't have to win the SEC or win their division to still be in the college football playoff. But they showing you, I'm still not going to give it to you, Kirby. I'm still not going to let you win it to show you that it's a hierarchy in this thing. And unfortunately, Bryce Young had 4 touchdowns in his debut. That's scary. Debut against Miami 4. So that means Bo Nix, LSU, A&M. Because I know Jimbo's talking a little bit of this shit. Jimbo, because I saw Haynes King, and he looked kind of like this. 2 touchdowns with 3 picks. So Alabama's Alabama. I'm like you, Chris. Whenever Alabama loses, I'm always saying the same thing. Who did they play? Because it's gonna be hard to beat those dudes, and that standard is not going anywhere for a long time.
Well, they're coming to the Swamp very soon, and that will be an interesting one to see how they perform in a packed stadium, loud, rocking atmosphere. Bryce Young hasn't really played in that yet. Real quick, Ben, just want to get your thoughts on anybody else who stood out or impressed you over the weekend in the SEC. I'm going with 2 guys, and I watched both games and just, very impressed. One, I'm starting with Will Levis at Kentucky. I mean, a different level of quarterback at Kentucky. They have not had this, in over a decade since Woodson was there. But Will Levis looks the part. We'll see once they get against tougher opponents. But, man, airing it out, Wan'Dale Robinson, Josh Ali, that was a lot of fun to see. Liam Cohen, the new offense coordinator, calling the shots. So fun to see Kentucky enter the 21st century and actually throw the ball now and have a good passer. And then the other guy's Bo Nix. And the reason I bring up Bo Nix, and I know he played Akron, but I was very critical of Bo Nix last year. I thought he should take that next level at Auburn. We didn't see it. Game 1, he passed the test. 20 of 22, 275 yards, 3 touchdowns, had 32 yards rushing. I thought Bo Nix executed the offense perfectly this past for Auburn. I'm excited to see what Brian Harsin, the wrinkles he gives Bo Nix as the season goes along. Anybody impress you over the weekend?
I was gonna say Will Levis, and I think the thing is he doesn't get the pub because of where he played, not how he played. If he played it anywhere else, that makes me nervous. Kentucky makes me more nervous against Florida than Alabama does because they typically play them well regardless. Dude, 367 yards, 4 TDs. Chris Rodriguez, 19 rushes, 125 yards, and they got a defense. Like Coach Stoops always brings the defense with Kentucky. Kentucky could be a sleeper, and the thing is, you just go about your business when people consider you a basketball school. Like they're not going to say, "Oh, it's just Kentucky." And I think you make a great point when you talk about what Auburn was able to do. People kept saying, "Man, what type of offense are we going to see? Is it going to be run? Is it going to be pass?" It's balance. 20 or 22 is about as efficient as you could be, and then you still got Tank Bigsby. So I think the biggest offseason pickup for any coordinator, it might have been Derek Mason. Derek Mason can coach football, man, and he's at Auburn now. So if you're Auburn, you're thinking to yourself, hey, man, we know we got those big bad boys in Tuscaloosa. That's every year. But if Bo Nix is playing that efficient, not turning the ball, 20 of 22, I'll take that any day of the week. That's without the run game. But yeah, Mr. Levis up there in Kentucky deserves a lot more credit. But shout out to Tennessee, shout out to Auburn. And shout out to those new coaches and new places to start off with big wins. Because the one Tennessee, they ran the ball. They ran it a lot. They ran it some more, and they ran it some more, and they got them a win. Like I said, I don't care if it's Bowling Green, because if they would have lost, this is the same Tennessee that lost to Georgia State not too many years ago at home. So I was very, very impressed by the new coaches by not doing too much. But Bo Nix, people thought they were going to say, hey, man, we got to win in spite of him. No, they win it because of him. And if he can keep that up, dare I say, they could be vying for that SEC West. But I was impressed with Mizzou. I was impressed with Arkansas. Very, 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 very disappointed in LSU. Not that they lost. It's how they lost. They got dominated. That was it. I mean, you got arguably the best. You do have the best DB in the country. Dude, Chip Kelly is coaching like a coach that's on the hot seat, and Ed Ogeron is coaching like a coach that got a contract extension a couple years ago. And Ed Ogeron better call Gene Chizik and ask him what they do. Because Gene Chizik got fired 2 years after winning the Natty. Don't get too comfortable, Ed, because you did it with a very, very historically talented team. And now we're trying to see what type of coach you are. So disappointing them LSU Tigers. Very, very impressed with these new coaches. Kentucky, scary. Alabama, still the standard. Georgia, hey, JT Daniels, welcome to the party, because this is what it really is. But all in all, I think it was a good year. And look, ETSU beat Vanderbilt. Vandy's Vandy. I mean, I don't know what to say about Vandy. Vandy only gives their coaches 4 years. The nerve of Vandy said you only get 4 years to turn it around. Who am I, John Franklin? So I was very, very impressed this weekend. I was going through SEC football withdrawal. And I'm an SEC fan first. Obviously, I want them boys in Florida to win, but I thought it was very, very impressed, man. And I think when you're a team like Tennessee, to get a win like that, I think that was very, very impressive, because unfortunately we think that Tennessee's going to lose now based on what they've been showing us. But, hey, man, very, very star-studded throughout this SEC with quarterbacks. A lot of big names. I think Bryce Young is the headliner. Haynes King, I mean, he's going to have to work on those turnovers. Mr. Levis, welcome to the party circle. You keep playing like that, Kentucky will have a Heisman Trophy candidate at quarterback. But for 1 week, it was incredible. And like I said, Miami, Coach Diaz, don't worry about that. Alabama does that to everybody. Every single person that happens to them. But shout out to them Florida Gators for still keeping up the longest streak. I think they got the most wins for their first game in college football. So it's one thing we can say that Alabama doesn't have. That's the one thing we have that Alabama doesn't.
Two more things I'll just throw in real quick. Shout out Zeb Nolan, a guy who goes from the coaching staff to quarterback and throws for 4 touchdowns. Like, that was the craziest story to me in week one. But then you talked about LSU being disappointing. I think Mike Leach, one of my bold predictions for this year is that he's let go at the end of this year. Man, you play with fire probably should have lost to Louisiana Tech. Kudos to you finding a way to win and survive, but man, that was not a good way to start the season for Mike Leach and company. So we'll see some disappointments, so a lot of good, some bad in week 1 for the SEC. I think as we get into week 2 and the season evolves, we'll start to figure out who's the real deal and who's kind of, putting on a face in week 1.
Beamer ball in South Carolina is alive and well. When you got a guy that was coaching the quarterbacks, now I am the quarterback, to go out there and play like that. Hey, shout out to that young man. I mean, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think was Trey Lance back up or something like that? I mean, so yeah, and to me, Chris, that's the storylines, right? Like, it's the built-in storylines. This guy was a coach. Now he's the player, and he's the best player on the team, and he's out there throwing touchdowns. And Mike Leach is great for sound bites. Mike Leach is going to give you a great interview. But if Mike Leach would have lost Louisiana Tech lost for the same reason why Tulane lost against Oklahoma, because they didn't expect to be in the game that long.
Right.
That's what expectations do. Tulane should have beat Oklahoma. You got the onside kick. You on the other side of the 50. Don't panic, and they panic. So I think that, yes, Mike Leach, what the benefit of the doubt he got at Washington State will not happen at Mississippi State, because the air raid is not working. It's really not. And y'all beating the brakes off of LSU last year is proving that LSU might not be a good team right now. That ain't even a good win for y'all last year. So Mike Leach, number one, you're not the best team in your state. That goes to Ole Miss. Matt Corral, not named Bryce Young, might be the best quarterback in the SEC. Mr. Levis at Kentucky, he's throwing his head in the fire. Florida, they don't even know who their quarterback is. These storylines are what I'm looking forward to, falling in love with some of these players that we didn't know about before. But Mike Leach, you are on the hot seat, because the thing, they say as soon as you get hired in the SEC, as long as your name ain't Nick Saban, the clock is already ticking for when you're going to get fired. And for Mike Leach, number one, you're not good enough to talk as much trash as you do and to be as confident as you are, because your team is not that good. So we'll see, Chris. The clock is ticking, because the last thing Mississippi State want to do is go back to being bottom feeders. It's a race to 6 wins with them. I don't know how good Mississippi State is. La Tech should have beat them. Tulane, y'all could have beat freaking Oklahoma. What are y'all doing? But but I will say this, and I know this is an SEC show. Shout out to the young man Mackenzie Milton, man. I think the fact that he played last night proves that's why you love college football. Y'all, they almost beat the evil empire of Notre Dame. Come on, man, you got to finish that thing.
Love it. Great stuff. Ben Troupe. You can follow him on Twitter at Ben Troupe 84. Of course, the website as well, where you can find the book. Ben, thanks as always for the time, man. We'll do this again real soon.
Appreciate it.
All right, there he is, Ben Troupe. Talking all things SEC. A quick reminder for you guys, betting on the SEC does not have to be a guessing game if you listen to the new Locked On Bets podcast hosted by your boy Q and Lee Sterling. Get Lee's Lock of the Day. Follow Locked On Bets, brought to you by BetOnline.ag, wherever you get your podcasts. That is going to do it for me, Chris Gordy. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. We're going to start turning the page, start looking ahead to week 2 of the SEC. All that coming your way right here on Locked In SEC. Talk to you guys tomorrow.